the ownership of Chelsea. And I can tell you that they are, specifically Egbali, is one of the most compelling, capable individuals that I've ever met in football. And whilst you might not see the vision yet, and it might not have arrived, and you might be harking back to a time when Roman Abramovich bought and sold football players and left you in a situation where you're being sanctioned as a football club and ultimately being compromised because of some of his dealings. But he bought you success. He changed the direction of travel. He changed you from a football club that Ken Bates was running on a shoestring and was holding together economically to a football club that was a powerhouse.
Okay, you're impressed by Egbali.
These guys are capable.
Are Egbali and Boehly good football operators?
I think Egbali is, yeah.
Based on what?
Based upon what I've understood from
him. But football operators, not commercial operators.
I think he's both.
Football operators.
I think he knows precisely what he's doing. And I'm not, people are going to say, "Oh, well, I've got no allegiance to Chelsea. I couldn't give a monkeys about Chelsea. I couldn't give a monkeys about Tottenham. The team I care about is Crystal Palace." But when I meet people, I spend my entire time bringing situations to the circumstance and having a go at people. So when I'm praising somebody, it's not because I'm getting a backhand or because I've got some affiliation or it's because I speak the same language as them. Because when I see someone that's really, really good, and it's very rare, because I see a world of blaggers and people that BS all the time and people that will have you believe they can do things and they can't. I think Egbali is one of the most capable individuals that I've ever come across, both commercially and in his vision for Chelsea and his understanding of what's required of owning a massive football club.
So and I think in vast numbers, members of the Chelsea Supporters Trust not having him?
Because they don't like the direction of travel. They don't like the fact that the team isn't winning. They don't like the fact that things have been done differently than the orthodoxy they got used to. Some of them didn't like the way Roman Abramovich operated. Some of them felt that Roman Abramovich hiring managers, getting to the level of success and firing them wasn't palatable. But Roman Abramovich changed the thought processes around Chelsea. He came in 2003 and spent more money than everyone had ever seen at Chelsea and bought and secured a legacy for himself and a level of success that most English clubs can only dream of. But that ended in a bad outcome. It also ended up in practices that have now been discovered that are putting Chelsea in jeopardy going forward in terms of illicit payments that have now been coughed up by the new ownership that Roman Abramovich will see whether they have far-reaching consequences.
Does the likes of Egbali care or not care whether he's liked or not liked by the Chelsea support?
Well, I think it's a difficult... I mean, do you care about what people...
I think everyone cares.
I think everyone cares to a point of view.
Did you care?
To a point. But I'm different, aren't I? I'm not an American that bought a football club. An American that buys a football club isn't in love with the football club. He's in love with the opportunity that a football club might present and then wants to do it very well and everyone gets to rise in a high tide, right? So me, I was a local boy whose father played for the football club who wanted to be successful with the football club. Different dynamic, not a fair comparison.
Yeah.
Will he be good? Will they be good for Chelsea? I think in the longer term, I've always said that I thought Chelsea would win the league in 2 or 3 years. I was laughed at and maybe I'll be wrong. But I won't be wrong by that much.
And just to underline this, Egbali is the power.
Yeah. Yeah.
The sole power. We can push Todd Boehly to one side.
Clear Lake and Egbali are 62% shareholders. And having spent a bit of time with them, and I don't want to wish to be indiscreet, but I am not impressed by many people. And I've been around football and I've been around most boardrooms and around most people and I've met most of them. This was one of the most compelling individuals that knows what he wants, knows how to achieve it, and I'm telling you, I'll be very surprised if he doesn't.
When you take over any business, you just have to make sure that you're aligned with the people who are operating the business. And I think Tuchel is obviously extremely talented and someone who had great success at Chelsea. Our vision for the club was finding a manager who really wanted to collaborate with us, a coach who really wanted to collaborate. I think there's a lot of walls to break down at Chelsea. Before the first team, for example, in the academy, didn't really share data. They didn't share information about, where the top players were coming from. So our goal is to really bring, a team together that, with the academy, with the first team, with the incremental clubs that we want to acquire and develop. All of that needs to be, a well-oiled machine. And the reality of our decision was that we just weren't sure that Thomas saw it the same way we saw it. And no one's right or wrong. It was just we didn't have a shared vision for the future. And it wasn't about Zagreb. It was really about, the shared vision for what we wanted to Chelsea Football Club to look like. And, it wasn't a decision that was made, as a result of a single win or loss. It was a decision that was made really about what we thought was the right vision for the club. It obviously prohibits tanking, right? So I think that, you have no, because of course the economics of going into the first league are materially different, right? I mean, I think the Premier League distributes its media money, and every club gets north of, 200 million pounds or so from the media contract. And when you go into the next league down, the Championship League, that numbers fall off a cliff, right? So there's no one who's thinking about tanking. And those relegation games are some of the highest broadcast games. I mean, ultimately, I hope that the Premier League takes a little bit of a lesson from American sports and really starts to figure out, why wouldn't we do a tournament, with the bottom 4 teams? Why isn't there an all-star game? I mean, people are talking about more money for the pyramid. MLB did their all-star game in LA this year. We made $200 million from, a Monday and a Tuesday. So, I think you could do a North versus South, all-star game for Premier League and fund whatever the pyramid needed very easily. I think we know people. We know human capital. And I think we understand game plans and strategies. And yeah, we're not expecting to be, the football experts to find the best talent. We're going to put those people in place. And I think it's no different than running any human capital business where it's all about getting the right resources, making them collaborate, getting them organized, thinking about, how you have, a global business at a local level. So, I think we're going to be continuously adding resources. I think we've been talked about having a multi-club model. I would love to, continue to build out the footprint. I think that, there's different countries where there's advantages to having a club. Red Bull does a really good job. They've got Leipzig and they've got Salzburg, and both of which are playing in Champions League. So, they've figured out how to make that work. You have Man City, which has a very big network of clubs. Because I think the challenge that Chelsea has right now, or one of them, is that, when you have 18, 19, 20-year-old superstars, you can loan them out to other clubs, but you put their development in someone else's hands, right? So I think that, our goal is to make sure we can show pathways for our young superstars to get onto the Chelsea pitch while getting them real game time. And to me, the way to do that is through, another club somewhere in a really competitive league in Europe. And because of Brexit, you also have to think about, okay, well, how am I going to get these boys, and of course we have the top women's club in the world too, but how are you going to get them into Europe, into England because of Brexit? So we need GBEs, which are basically points that you get for playing in different leagues, and the more points you get, the more caps you play, the more national teams that you have, it's easier to immigrate. So our job is to figure out how to put that platform together so that we can get our 18, 19, 20-year-olds, because we have one of the best academies in the world. So if you look at what our academy has developed, our academy is Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, more recently Tammy Abraham, Reece James, Mason Mount, Trevor Chalobah. We have 10 or 11 players right now that are either on loan and controlled by us, or we have the right to buy them back, or they're playing for our team that came from our academy. So what we really need is a place to put our 18, 19, 20-year-olds to develop them somewhere in Portugal or Belgium or somewhere like that, get them the points they need, and also get them out of South America and into Portugal is a perfect place, for example, we think, and then to get them on the pitch in Chelsea. Well, I think you figure out how to make the academy that is so top, collaborate with the first team. You show players the pathway. You teach them about how you're thinking about the future. You treat your players of the academy as academy product, not academy players. So I think you
Is Barcelona the example there?
Yeah, La Masia is an amazing. They've done an amazing job. And of course, no one can own Barcelona or Real Madrid, right, or Bayern Munich for that matter. So I think we think that Chelsea's probably the biggest brand that one can own in sports worldwide. I think Champions League has a big component of that already, right? So you have the best clubs throughout Europe playing in the best competition. And so I think we believe very much that Champions League has a lot of that, and there's a reason if you win Champions League, you make over 100 million euros, right? So you win the Masters and you make a couple $1 million. You win Champions League and you make over 100 million euros. Yeah, and I think you can do that in the summer, and there's other ways to do that. And I think that the passion that the fans have for the sport and for the sport as it is so strong. That it's hard to envision, changing. I never say hard nose. I mean, I like to keep options alive, but obviously it's not something that we're talking about at all.